Ask Reddit, what's the worst cheating story you've ever heard? I went to the wedding of my then boyfriend's friend. Easily the best wedding I've ever been to, absolutely a smash. The bride was lead singer in a band and they performed, killed it. Just a great party all around. People had a great time and the couple seemed so happy. The next day I'm at brunch with the wedding party, sans married couple, and everyone's phone buzzes. The best man gets up and takes a call. The mood absolutely falls, everyone gets quiet. I ask my BF what's going on. Apparently the bride had been cheating on him the entire relationship, with the drummer in her band, who performed at the wedding. She told him that morning. Immediate divorce. We all sat there and one of the groomsmen goes, "We can never tell him how great his wedding was." Firefighter asked another firefighter to cover his shift by working for him. He then went and had sex with his wife that day. My mum told me this story about one of my dad's old colleagues. She was an acquaintance of the wife. They'd been married for years, older couple. He cheated on her with an 18-year-old. In a fit of rage she bought a new car, new clothes, and threw a few enormous parties. When the anger passed she became severely depressed and hung herself. He found her in the entrance of their house. They had kids too, but I think they were in their early 20s by then. My bio mom's best friend was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. We moved her husband and her daughter in. My mom slept with her husband and got pregnant, so they put her in a nursing home to die all alone just so they wouldn't have to deal with the consequences. She was hours away as well, so her daughter, who was 10 at the time, was unable to visit her. She died alone because she went to her best friend for help. I don't speak to bio mom anymore. After her friend's death, she showed off her brand new car with the life insurance money. She married her husband. At the time, her dead best friend also had a 19-year-old daughter who was homeless with a toddler. I felt so fucking sick sitting in the car listening to her brag about how nice it was and how she finally got the car she deserved. Some people are disgusting. My friend was partying with her boyfriend and some other people. Her boyfriend fucked another girl on the same couch as her, while she was passed out. She woke up part of the way through it and just didn't know what to do. Couple was together for 8 years, both working at sea on the same ship for 8 to 11-week trips, bought the house and heading towards marriage, kids etc. etc. Start a 11-week trip and noticed something wasn't right. Girl had fucked another crew member on the trip off and wanted to be with them. Guy had to watch the start of the new relationship while on a floating prison and due to his qualifications couldn't leave the ship. Source, me. I am that guy. My ex-husband cheated on me while I was going through cancer treatment, then divorced me after it progressed to stage 4. Fuck that guy, I hope his dick falls off. Couple sitting across from me at a bar in Key West. She was his best friend's former wife. They started hooking up and best friend found out the affair. Came home after church once and blew his head off. Once the dust was settled she married her dead husband's best friend who she had been fucking, causing the suicide. They were both insanely happy and even partially laughed when telling me the story. Alcohol makes people just spill everything. I was an IT contractor for the Department of Defense, NMCI for those curious. We got a keyword alert on an email conversation. Then more. Same folks involved. So we went and checked out the email and the email thread. Turns out it was a senior chief, who was talking to nearly a half-dozen women under his chain of command that he was having affairs with, multiples of which were pregnant with his children. He, of course, was married, having 4 kids with his wife. What started out with a, "Hey, you're not supposed to discuss that" on regular email investigation turned into a massive scandal, wrecking multiple marriages and turned into a whole lot of meetings with his very angry CO. Don't do stupid shit on company email. And really don't do stupid shit on DoD servers. Not me but my best friend. He was madly in love with a woman and wanted to marry her. They lived together and were very happy. As a birthday gift, she bought him a plane ticket so he could fly out to see me. While he was with me, he would talk to her every so often. Every time he got off the phone with her, he would tell me something just wasn't right. His spidey sense was tingling. He came home to find evidence that she had someone over at their place. She initially denied it, but eventually she admitted to having a male coworker in the house. Her buying the ticket was just a way for her to have the place to herself for a 3-day sex romp. My buddy was devastated and heartbroken. It took him years to recover. Former colleague of mine in his mid-30s was living with his long-term girlfriend, and they had been shopping for engagement rings. He comes to work one day and early afternoon receives a text from her telling him she's seeing someone else, has packed up the house and moved out to live with the other guy. No apology, no further explanation. She then immediately blocked him and left him to deal with the rent and other bills on his own. He was a nice guy. It was horrendous to see that happen to him. He's now happily married. To someone else, of course. I had a roommate in college, who was a big cheater. He had a GF from high school at another college and she would come to visit on the weekend sometimes. He cheated on her all the time. One weekend, she came down to visit and he was not home. The rest of us had taken a taxi home from a bar, but he went home with a girl. His very cute GF was wearing an overcoat and it was obvious that she had driven a couple of hours from her college in special lingerie to come see him. He knew she was coming. She hung out with me, watching TV and waiting for him. We'd known each other a couple of years and were friendly. She started out excited for him to come home, wanting to show him the lingerie. Then she got really down when it was obvious he was not coming home. She actually flashed me the lingerie briefly. I think she just wanted someone to see it. She was a hot blonde and she had on black bra and black panties with a garter belt and stockings. She looked great. She ended up changing out of it into sweats and sleeping on the couch. They broke up when he came home in the morning. I ran into my ex-wife's mother at a bar with some guy like 10 years after we separated. Said hi and disappeared quickly. 6 months later she is in the local paper. Apparently the guy she was with was her paralyzed husband's brother that she was fucking. She hung herself in jail after being arrested for trying to hire a hitman, cop, to kill her husband. I was so relieved to have gotten away from that craziness and surprised my ex didn't as her to make it a 2-for-1 special with me thrown into boot. My dad cheated on my mom with my best friend's mom who was also married. I was a teenager at the time, and unfortunately found out before my mom did. Guess who had to tell her? My dad told me I owed it to him to not say anything. The massive amount of guilt I dealt with for outing him and destroying my mom's life haunted me for years. My cousin told me this while he was in boot camp. There was a guy who had a GF/wife and a girl who had a BF/husband. One day the boy and girl decided to cheat on their so the day before graduating from boot camp. A sergeant who was a family and didn't approve of people who cheated on their so saw them kissing and he had them call their so to tell them that they wouldn't be graduating from boot camp and needed to start from day 1 of boot camp because they chose to cheat on their so. My friend had a massive heart attack and having sex was hard for him for a while. He worked and his wife didn't. He fell asleep in the chair one morning while getting ready for work. He awoke to a man unlocking his door. For about a year while he was at work his wife had different men with keys to the house coming over to have sex with her. My friend's husband hired a prostitute for $40 when my friend was a few weeks postpartum with their baby. He invited the prostitute over to their house while taking care of their baby and had sex in their bed. My friend found out later because he was missing from the school where they both worked and she found out he had been arrested or detained or something, I forget exactly, because he had gone to the police to report that he was being blackmailed. The prostitute had started blackmailing him and he went to a loan shark to get $1,000 to pay her off and, when she demanded more money, I guess he decided he couldn't keep paying and tried to report her to the cops and tried to lie about his involvement. The cops obviously were suspicious and found out he had hired her. He was fired from his job at the school and it crushed my friend. To add insult to injury, her mother-in-law blamed her, saying that she hadn't slept with her husband during some of the pregnancy. It was causing her a lot of pain at the end of her pregnancy and she physically couldn't. She's still with him. I hate his guts so much and it makes me so furious that she's still with that gaping asshole. Not so much cheating, but this guy I personally knew when I was running around in the streets had a harem of about 5 women, all older, all with their own homes, either cheating on their husbands with him or divorced. That's not the worst part though. He admitted to me that he would purposely seek out oldish lonely women, get them hooked on meth, like he was, specifically so he'd have these women rely on him for their drugs and he'd have a bed to fall into every night / could ask them for money whenever he needed it. He was willfully and knowingly getting these middle / upper class women, with no real experience with drugs or the street life, addicted to meth little by little so he could use them for his personal gain. That was his hustle. That was his job. It's literally what he devoted his life to doing. When he first told me, it blew my mind that I was talking to a bona fide psychopath. I'd like to say that I cut all contact with him after that, but at the time, he was my dealer, so I didn't. Dude would tell me stories of how he had these chicks wrapped around his finger, how he just got $500 from this one chick because he fed her some story about his rent. And tomorrow he was getting $400 from the next one because he fed her the same story, and the night after that he had to go sleep with number 3 because her husband wouldn't be there. He juggled them like it was a business, because to him, it was. Crazy as hell. I know someone who regularly cheated on their out-of-town girlfriend. I guess he was going to cut all that out when she finished her advanced degree program out of state. She moved to his state and they got an apartment together. While in the shower, his phone is buzzing with messages. She finds the girl's username sending all these messages and decides to send her a direct message from her own account, and the other girl was completely honest with her. I know who you are, I hook up with your BF all the time, including last weekend at your new apartment in your bed. Etc. etc. My brother's girlfriend cheated on him with his best friend, and when he found them doing it in his bed, my brother beat his friend to death. Now my brother is in prison for life. Poor bro threw his life away for some skank. Sorry to hear. Yeah, every fiber of my being wishes he didn't do it. I was working in IT, needed to perform manual backups of sales laptops. Long story short, I found dozens of pics and videos of 2 coworkers getting it on in a company-provided hotel room. They left nothing to the imagination. The guy also saved screenshots of texts between him / his wife. She had found out about the affair and was in the process of divorcing him. It was really messy, kids involved and all that. I sat him down and told him I found shit that shouldn't be on company property. He turned white as a ghost. But I told him I'd keep it between us, which I did. Data was deleted and that was it about. This girl in high school cheated on her boyfriend with the guys that bullied him. And then she got bullied by all their girlfriends. Ex-partner let me raise her kid for 4 years while cheating on me with his father the whole time. Let me propose, to which she said yes. Then one night after me paying up his month of private nursery fees and putting him to bed, I came through to her telling me to leave or she'd call the police and tell them I had broken into the house and never to contact them again. They've bought a house together now and are seemingly doing well, while I still haven't fully recovered and don't know my own self-worth. That's a shortened version of events. I worked in a factory. We will call them Ben and Sarah. Ben was the supervisor of maintenance and Sarah worked setup, sort of a maintenance person specialized for that specific production line. Ben's wife was diagnosed with terminal cancer. When this happened, Ben started cheating on his wife with Sarah. He had quite a bit of money and promised Sarah that after his wife passed, they'd move away to a beautiful cabin in British Columbia in the mountains. I caught them boning in the maintenance office one midnight shift. I didn't report it because I was a dumb 21-year-old. Long story short, Ben promised Sarah the world after his wife passed. Welp. His wife ended up beating this terminal diagnosis and he broke it off with Sarah. This literally drove Sarah insane and she was forced to check into a mental hospital. I never saw her again after that. Guy I was with had cheated on his wife with her best friend since 10th grade of high school until their late 30s. The girl was married to his best guy friend. And they went on all vacations, etc. together as couples with children. Would sneak sex in the house while the wife is putting the kids to bed and the husband was off in another room doing some random task they asked him to do. An ex was at a party with her then boyfriend, but she wanted to have sex with another guy, so she gave her boyfriend 2 really strong diazepam pills telling him they were ecstasy. This was 90s Scotland, so people were given to gobbling pills like Smarties without asking too many questions. When he passed out she went upstairs and did the do with the other guy. Had a coworker, married, start having an affair with a customer, also married, at our work. Including sneaking out to make out with her in the parking lot on his breaks. And texting her non-stop while he was supposed to be working. The whole store knew about it. He would tell us gross details about their sex life. Including showing us the deep-ass scratches on his back, or the time he had to take her to the ER because they failed but stuff and he ripper her. We all knew they were both married. Finally they both decided that they were going to break if off with their spouses. He broke up with his wife. She, on the other hand, decided to work things out with her husband. So he went from 2 ladies, to no ladies. This was years ago and I do not think he's been in another serious relationship since. And on behalf of all women, am glad. Years back, in my early 20s. There was one guy who was in my extended friend group. Didn't know him that well. But he was a friend of a friend of a friend, and we would occasionally find ourselves in the same social gatherings. He had just started dating this girl. She was maybe a few years younger than us. Probably about 18 to 19. They were at the very start of their relationship, so I don't know if they were exclusive to each other. But people knew they were dating. A bunch of them went out on a night out. I didn't go out but I heard about what happened later on. This friend of mine got extremely drunk. The girl he was seeing helped him back to his house. His dad was still up and heard them trying to get into the door. This was the first time the girl had met his dad. The dad helped friend to his room and then invited the girl in for a chat and to get to know her a bit. The girl ended up fucking the dad that night. The day my brother was born, my father was in the hospital with my mom for the delivery, told her he wished she wasn't the mom, and then went and spent the night at his girlfriend's house, while I, 5 years old, stayed with my grandparents. He was a long-haul trucker and was back on the road immediately after, so my mom brought my brother home from the hospital alone, had 5-year-old me to take care of, and a dog as well. And it was a C-section birth. No idea how she did it. Anyway, my brother and I are both well-adjusted adults. I do get pretty sad when thinking about my childhood, and I've never cheated on a partner, and I'm a good father to a wonderful 2-year-old with another baby on the way. I have a bunch of other terrible cheating stories from my childhood if anyone is interested. The one posted a few days ago where the husband worked long hours and was on an unusually long business trip, busting his ass off. He came back home accomplished as he got the promotion of his life and he and his wife would never worry about paycheck to paycheck living again. Instead, he found her cheating with a man who understood her religious beliefs. She came to Reddit trying to get sympathy from the masses. In my head, I imagine that man is happy as a dog when its humans arrive home, can't contain his joy and can't wait to show his wife that he went above and beyond for his family. He contributed and it was worthwhile. That moment he saw her, he shut down hard. Walked away and didn't speak to her for 10 straight days. My heart breaks for that fucker. My wife had an uncle who died. Before he died, his wife, who I will call Auntie Cocaine, was cheating on him with dude too. People knew it. When he died, Auntie Cocaine and Dude 2 stayed together for years. When Dude 2 died a few years ago, it was known that Auntie Cocaine was already banging Dude 3. She doesn't quite understand why her first husband's brother doesn't want her at family events anymore. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe and tell us all any cheating horror stories you know down below. Also let me know if you'd prefer just the gameplay without the text. Thanks.